Greetings, greetings, greetings. You are now tuned into the Vault. Trust Christian, own nothing, control everything. Just want to thank you for tuning in live, listening to replay. Always appreciate everybody that tunes in live, listens in the replay. This is the Vault, episode 475. How to go private process looks. Definitely wanted to do this episode today. Not completely by request, but by demand. Based off of the demand we've seen throughout the years, why people reach out to the vault throughout the years, it's because they want to know how to go private process looks. So we're going to talk about that today on this episode. Appreciate the likes, appreciate the subscriptions. We got over 5,000 subscribers, definitely hundreds of thousands of views. Definitely appreciate everyone that's ever tuned in live, listening to replay. We definitely thank everybody that's ever reached out to the vault. We've been going over 5 years strong, so of course we're always, thankful that we can still pump out content for the listening audience, and always appreciate that. This is how to go private process looks. This is the episode that maybe many people listen to the vault. They say, "Oh, I appreciate the vault. It has the logo. It's not showing off public processes and being out there in the public. That's fine." So let's talk about how that looks for most people. Appreciate Mississippi for tuning in live, listening to replay. Always appreciate Mississippi for tuning in live, listening to replay. So how to go private process looks where people just gotta first reach out to the vault. Of course, you're listening to the vault, so you're going to most likely reach out to the vault. Once you get a consultation, we assess your needs. This is a really easy episode. We could be off here in minutes, but we're gonna go talk about it for the listening public, because people say, "Oh man, I want to go private," but did you invest in a going private process? So you gotta go through the private process, which means you reach out through the private process. You don't sit on the internet. You don't see the people that are talking about the private and they're showing off their cars. They're showing off their this. They're showing off their that. How do you start the private process? You reach out. You send an email, Christian@trustchristian.com. Once again, that's Christian@trustchristian.com. Appreciate Jersey for tuning in live, listening to replay. Always appreciate Jersey for tuning in live, listening to replay. We got New Jersey City for tuning in live and maybe listening to replay. Oh man, I gotta reach out via email to a private, party. I gotta find out about a private process. I gotta. You see, you pay to play. You thought you were gonna get into the private and didn't have to pay. When we got invited to the event, the first thing was you paid. Sure, you heard the information like we're doing on the YouTube here or whatever, airway or way that you hear this. But then you reach out via email, Christian@trustchristian.com. And what's interesting is so many people say, "Oh man, I don't know if I should do it," or maybe you do say, maybe you don't say that. But guess what? There are many people, very successful people, that reach out. Many $1 million asset holders. Oh man, I ran into your channel because somebody else, and I heard I didn't even listen to the episode. I just emailed you. Right, $1 million business somewhere in the country. Appreciate New York for tuning in live, listening to replay. Always appreciate New York for tuning in live, listening to replay. What did they do? They reached out via email. They definitely did that first. That's the only way we know them. They reached out via email. They got the consultation. They definitely did that. They reached out. They got a consultation. And we addressed their needs. Everybody's process doesn't look the same. But the process of getting started does. Oh man, I could reach out to this person over the internet. What do you think about this person on the internet? It could be a lot of people on the internet, right? Right. Not too many of them are saying what we're saying. And we're talking about trustee training. We're talking about the training wheels to the bike. The training wheels. You go through trustee training, that's the training wheels to generation wealth building. Generational wealth building. Generational. Look, when you go into the rooms we're in, they say, look, we're not focused on building it, we're focused on keeping it. Do you hear the difference in thought process and in conversation? So, why would it hurt them to send an email to some mosey wosey the vault? Oh, well, I don't know about that. And these are your big fish. We've bragged about this for years. We got people that they started out with boats and now they have horses. Trustees. And they have more than that. And if you think it's because they're having to work harder, that's true. It's also because they learned how to work smarter. They invested in their private education. Did we fly in and sit down with them and shake their hands? Yes, we did. That's what a private process looks like. You sit down and shake the people's hands privately. When we hold workshops, it's come in, shake someone's hand. We brought in a third generational wealth trustee into the room for the last conference. Okay. I'm not third generation wealth. We're not talking about trust Christian revolt, but that's what someone could say. Someone could say, "Oh, I'm not third generation wealth." So if you're not third generation wealth, what would $350 to be to sit with someone that's third generation wealth that actually is a lending facility? One for real estate, two for any business venture that actually has a good operator, a passionate founder and operator, good operator, and you're saying, "Oh wow, well, I don't know what the private looks like." They told you they're private equity. They're securities exchange lawyer. How does a private process look? You get in contact with the vault because we have these relationships. You don't bypass the relationships. You get involved in the process. Where'd you hear it from? How do you go from there? It's like us hearing it from our mentors, but not going to our mentors to really be mentored, and we want to go to somebody else that's like their peer. That's what happens. Maybe not the every time, but people, if you think that oh, let me do that. Hey, do you hear how we called it out? Because we can call out the people that do it. The facts are the vault is a pillar in the community for talking about trust Christian, own nothing, control everything. That's what we're talking about. Well, we've addressed the need that people need to not only build physical wealth, they have to build mental wealth. So what we did was we created another channel called Affirmation Station. We're gonna type it into the chat. You all can go over and hear Trust Christian put it down and really focus on the mental aspects of trusteeship. Trusteeship is mental, not just physical. It's like asking you, well, what are you doing? You're managing assets. That's true. You are managing that. Oh, wow. That's actually the wrong name. Uh, you are managing assets. And if you're managing assets, it comes with a mindset. So a lot of people say, oh, I didn't go to school. So how am I going to be a trustee? Because a lot of people want to know how they're going to be a trustee and they didn't go to school to be a trustee. Right. Well, the way that you get around that is by what we talked to actually a trustee about today. You actually have to study the law. You have to learn legalese. You're talking the same language that the lawyers that you're actually dealing with. It's funny because we were on the line today with a big fish, and they not even confident in their accountants. See, y'all think, oh, I'm gonna make $1 million and my accountant's gonna have me in the private process. Yeah, I'm in $1 million. How come my lawyer not tell me this? I got over $5 million. How come my lawyer didn't tell me this? And we're telling you stories that we hear at the vault. We're not quoting numbers that we need to make up. We hear it all the time. Every quarter, somebody reaches out. People reach out. Oh man, I got over one point. I got over $1 million, and my accountant didn't tell me about the private process. Right. Your lawyer didn't tell you about the private process or the accountant traditionally, because maybe they don't implement those strategies. They're public. Usually you have what's called a what? CPA, a certified public accountant. How does a private process look? You reach out to the private sources that gave you the private information so you can implement the private strategies or the private process that they say. That's what it is. It's not, oh, let me see if I can go to my account and see if he can implement the strategy. If he could, he was supposed to have, or she was supposed to have come to you. And we're happy that we're able to start the conversation with lawyers and accountants, with their entrepreneurs, because this is the case. And it's interesting because even when we were on the line with a big fish recently, when we had our private tax advisor parties come on the line, oh, well, guess what? They're not servicing you enough. So how is it that immediately somebody can come in and address a what's called a knowledge arbitration, a knowledge gap that somebody else doesn't have? Well, yeah, when you go through the private process, you get associated with private parties. Once you get associated with private parties, you learn more sophisticated information. That's what it comes down to. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. It's as simple as that. That's what it is. When you go through the private process, you start working with private parties that aren't on the internet advertising. Oh, we need to advertise. Well, you see the ball. We don't need to advertise. We don't need that. It's okay, but we haven't done it in 5 years. Oh, how does a business survive without advertising? That's even more hilarious. And we're so happy that we built something that way, because they try to say you can't do stuff like that. It goes against conventional wisdom. But when you believe in yourself, when you know what you're doing, when you're actually looking to serve, and you actually have quality work, craftsmanship speaks for itself. It's spoken for itself for years now. No one gets in the chat and goes crazy. They understand. These are good, faithful people that we appreciate. Everybody that's listened for years, and we appreciate the new listeners. The new listeners. How to go private process? How do I do that without having to just take a leap of faith? I don't know if I can trust anybody. Think about how many people. If you're listening, this is the question. This is the question. Do you trust anybody to manage the estate if you were to go? Oh, we have to ask that question. We asked that question actually on one of the first calls that we're on. So you say, oh, well, oh, I don't trust anybody. You know how many people come on the line and say, oh, I don't trust anybody? People that are single, people that are married. Ooh, they don't trust anybody. That's why they're looking to get in trust. Good point. You're looking to get in trust because you don't trust anybody. But that is not good, because you got to trust people when you're in trust. So people in trust usually deal with people in trust because they understand that you understand the positions of business properly. And business is not to have liabilities. You never manage large lump sums of money in your name. But everybody seems to think, well, when I get to that point, I'll figure it out. Well, the smart people have figured it out and then they get there. That's how you do it. It's not backwards. Reverse engineer means you learn the information first and then you walk step by step through the process of wealth building to growing to preservation and passing it along. It's a process. How you think you're going to pass it from one generation to the next? You think it's going to be in shambles like previous generations if you've had that situation? No, it's going to be in a system. It's going to be in a very systematic way of passing it along. Oh man, I wish you wouldn't have said that. Right. Go talk to anybody. Once again, we've already brought third generation into the room. You're not going to pass it along unless it's in a what? System. If you're not, oh, I'm not a systems person, man. I don't know nothing about none of that stuff. I just got a job, but I'm trying to pass something along. Well, it might mean you got to learn systems in your free time. Maybe not watching Netflix. Maybe it's reading the Black's Law Dictionary. Maybe it's reading entrepreneur books. Oh man, what's the best piece of information you could give us, Trust Christian Info? It's actually called Get the Black's Law Dictionary. And we got a few trustees recently that asked us this question. Oh, we gonna get a Black's Law Dictionary. Let us just go get the newest edition. Well, okay. Which one do you think costs more? The first one or the newest one? The first one. For a good reason. Because it has a lot of value. Oh man, we didn't know we needed to say that to people. The first one has the most value. But we're not telling trustees to break an arm and a leg to go get a collector's piece. Oh, I'm gonna go get this dictionary. It's 100, 200. It's actually over 100-year-old book. I'm gonna get this book and I'm gonna spend $3, $4, $500. We're not saying to do that. You don't have to do that, but give yourself some opportunity to learn the subject. 50 years, there's nothing wrong with 50 years. There's nothing wrong with going back 100 years. Appreciate Chicago for tuning in live, listening to replay. Always appreciate Chicago. Peace from the land. Always appreciate Chicago for tuning in live, listening to replay. How to go private process looks. You gotta get started. Everything around you right now is in the private. And if you're in the public, we know why most people say they're in the public. And that's because they're dealing with only the public information that they have. Have you invested in the private information? Oh man, the private information to go meet a third generation private information person lawyer is $350. Exactly. Oh man, I don't know how much this stuff costs to get into private, but you're finding out today that's how much the conference was. So then you move over to, okay, how much does the training? Well, it's tailored to your situation. It's not the same for everybody. There is an unaccredited and then there's an accredited, whether you know it or not. But some people, they don't want to, they want to fake it till they make it. They don't want to do their job. Be a trustee over their family estate. Because if you want to be a trustee over your family estate, you're going to get in position. Here we go. Whether y'all know it or not, see, this is for the listeners. So we run into recently some millennials. So this is a specific group of people, age group, in the States. Somehow they inherited a property right now. And they don't know what to do. Oh man, I don't know how to. I gotta almost fight over this property with a family member because we don't know how to sell it and get it in, and we don't really want to sell it, and one of us don't really want to sell it, but I don't mind selling. Right. That's called, are we gonna do a private process or are you gonna do it the public route? And we already know how that's gonna go because some scaly, scaving, soaring like a hawk, but he's an eagle, lawyer or she's gonna come in and scoop you out of the water and save you. And they're gonna charge you a fee. Oh man, Trust Christian Vault, ain't you gonna do that? Uh we're talking about going through a private process. That's a one time. Think about this. We never really ask people this, but we do in an indirect way. So if something happens to you, is the bank gonna be the trustee? That's not necessarily a public process, but it may start out private and the bank may be the trustee. Sometimes the bank can be trustees over a lot of people's estate. They actually have divisions sometimes at certain banks for that. So say you didn't trust someone, you always have a great option to hand it over to a bank, whether y'all know it or not. And that's the downside, because then you are putting the institution. And we talked to one of our mentors about that recently, because there's a difference between putting it in someone else's hands and putting it in an institution's hands, whether you know it or not. Putting it in the institution's hands is definitely going to change the dynamic of it. It's going to become a number as opposed to a purpose. It's just a number now. We just got to maintain numbers. Sometimes it's going to go up, sometimes it's going to go down. How to go private process means, okay, if you're going to go into private, you got to associate with people in the private. Oh man, I don't know how much that conference costs. Wait until you find out the conference costs $3,000 or $2,000. And not only that, the rooms at the hotel at the conference they're holding it at, some of the best ones, they're about $300 to $400 a night. Okay, we didn't count food, we didn't count flight yet. So what you riding coach? Or you riding coach to the first to the $1 million meetings? That's what you're doing? Hey, if you gotta do it, you gotta do it. But it is what it is. Oh, you riding in first class, because when you ride in first class, the same people you're going to meet, they might be flying from where you're flying, and you actually meet them right there and you talk to them a little bit. And you meet them in first class because the people that are owning $1 million, when they're flying, they got $1 million businesses and they're in these environments, they're in first class. Oh, I met them in first class. Then we went into the meeting and we had a great rapport. Oh man, I don't want to hear it cost 2,000, 3,000. The flight was an extra, you know, who knows how much your flight could be, first class, business class. Then we go on, oh man, food, transportation, clothing. Those are things you got to add up. You got to add those things up in the private process, no doubt about it. Oh man, I want to go into the private. You're going into the private. What are you going to go into the private and not have any money? You going to go into the private and not have, yeah, literally. Are you going to go into the private and not have money? How to go into the private process looks: having money, having some assets. Literally. Not figuratively, literally. And some people say, oh man, can I start things out with nothing? Well, the greatest asset, as we always said this from day one, is the trustee, because they're the ones that's going to have to build something from scratch. Literally, build something from scratch. Oh man, I don't know what it's like in life, but I got to build something from scratch. Well, a lot of first gens are building things from scratch. You're not the first gen to build something from scratch. Build something from scratch. The only difference is you're in an armored vehicle now. Ooh, you're not in a small flimsy car. You're in an armored vehicle because it's called asset protection. That's what the private process looks like. It's the greatest amount of asset protection versus the public, where it's limited protection because it's the public. Your name's on something. You're in the public. You're showing face. You're the face of the company. You're the CEO. You're the founder sometimes. We talked to one of our private trustees that went through trustee training like at least about 5 years ago now. Easy 5 years. Well, about, at least about, yeah, about 5 years. 5 years. At least 4 years. Trustees in law school right now. So y'all, yeah, people listen to the vault. Oh man, how influential has the vault been? We've been that influential. And they stuck around. They didn't steal. You know what that is? Stealing. How many people have you heard come through the vault? Over 400 episodes. And they come through and they, oh man, I'm with the vault. And next thing you know, they disappear. That's not a real business person. That's called a thief. We want to call them out for what they are because we've had trustees come through. And once again, we've had trustees come through. They going to law school right now. And they coming out and we're just going to be able to continue to build what we've been building, working with families privately. And they know the system well better than anybody because when you go through it, then you know how to reverse engineer it and build it. Once again, they learn the information, then they built it. They didn't build something and then get the information. See how it works? It is not that they get on this all the time, like, well, why don't you go to the law school? Well, once again, when you're in the business of developing talent, that's the business the vault's in. We work with many families from many backgrounds. So we work with many different talented people. And you have to know your position. And we appreciate everybody that's ever reached out from various different backgrounds. Whether y'all know it or not, as much as we talk smack about real estate, we probably would say that real estate is at least a 40% uh, uh, percentile of people that actually have reached out through the vault that have assets that traditionally when they reach out what they're looking to do is traditionally what they'll say is like, oh, we're trying to protect some real estate. Even the call that we had today was about real estate, um, which is good in some respects. It's real estate. The only difference is you all don't know that things are going private all the time. Private transactions are happening all the time, and you don't even know it. So how do you say, oh man, I don't know. It's going on without you. It's going with or without you. Private's going on. Private was here before the public. Just like you see public transactions of real estate going on all the time, there's private transactions of real estate going on all the time. How to go private process looks, reaching out to the vault. Christian at trustchristian.com. Once again, that's Christian at trustchristian.com. Definitely appreciate everybody for tuning in live, listening to replay. This is the vault, episode 475. How to go private process looks. Outside of reaching out, people may say, oh, I want to prepare myself for the private. Well, it's more so finding someone that's already there and asking them to, how does this process going to look for you? Asking someone that's been there and now you can say he's done that and now they're sharing with you how to do it. You know. So we appreciate everybody for tuning in live, listening to replay. Always appreciate everybody for tuning in live, listening to replay. Christian at trustchristian.com. Peace and joy.